Hey everybody, Brian here with the games I beat from May and June of 2023. We'll start off, these are in order of what I beat, so the first one I talk about is the one I beat first. So first off, we have Revenge of Shinobi for the Sega Genesis. I beat Shinobi 3 a few years ago, and I really like that game. This is one I only played off and on a little bit, so I decided to just put in the time and beat it. It took me quite a few playthroughs to finally beat it with the best ending. So when you get to the last boss of this game, your like girlfriend's like trapped in this cage, and there's this ceiling that's coming down and going to crush her. So you have to not only beat the boss, but you have to like shoot shurikens into this gear mechanism to stop the room from crushing her, and you have to like multitask and do it. It was very tough, and I got very lucky. I think it was like I ran out of like shurikens, and I had to like just get up to the boss and mash and beat him. Very good game. Shinobi 3 is probably still my favorite, but this one's still very hard and very challenging. But you have your shurikens. You do have like a sword, I think you can swing if you get closer. That the sword is actually in Shinobi 3. I don't remember if it's in this one or not. But yeah, it's a fun game. I'm finally glad to finally beat a Sega Genesis classic, Shinobi 3. And you'll see in this video, I'm coming up. There's quite a few Genesis games too. Next up, we have Mickey Mania: The Timeless Adventures of Mickey Mouse. This is on the Sega Genesis. It was also released on the Super Nintendo, Sega CD as well. This is like it goes chronologically through all the Mickey cartoons. You play as Mickey. You start with like the Steamboat Willie cartoon, and you go into like the different cartoons. I don't know a lot of Mickey Mouse cartoons offhand, but there's like the Prince and the Pauper, the Beanstalk one is one of the later levels. It's a very beautiful game. Like there's skeletons that animate well. Everything animates very well. This is by Sony Image Shop. I think Traveler's Tale developed it. The problem is like the hit detection can kind of be wonky because you're animating so well that sometimes stuff hits you when it shouldn't, or you think it shouldn't, or it takes a while to go through the animations. And until you learn the levels, like a lot of older games, you got to learn the levels and learn what can hit you and what can't. It's very hard to, like a lot of older 16-bit games, but it was enjoyable. There is some learning curve to it to learn because it's a very short game, but once you learn it, you can get through it. Each time I saw myself getting better and better at it until I finally beat it. Very good. I still like Magical Quest better on Super Nintendo, but this is still a cool game. And it's on, like I said, the Genesis. Those two games, Revenge of Shinobi, is available everywhere. You can play it on multiple Genesis collections. It might even be on like the Switch on the Genesis collection. Mickey Mania is not, I don't think. You can only get it on the original form. Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and Sega CD, I believe. And I heard that the Super Nintendo one's not as good because they kind of crop it and it makes it harder to play because the resolution was not as high. But I'm not 100% sure. Next up, it's kind of funny. I've been going through games for the Genesis that I played with my friend growing up. One he had was Green Dog, the Beast Surfer dude. And I remember playing this and being kind of weird because it's a platformer, but it's very basic. But the graphics are kind of interesting. You don't really have eyes, but it's very like silhouette like the guy looks kind of striking. I did some research on this. It's like based off of a surfer called Rick Green who created like a surfboard game in California or something, and he marketed it, and Sega picked up, I guess, Green Dog, and it kind of put out this platformer. It's okay. It's not great. I remember more nostalgia playing it at my friend's house. The worst thing about this game is the skateboarding levels, where there's like these birds coming at you and you gotta avoid the birds, and always birds in games. And the one level with the clams that eat you and they spit you back to the beginning. It's not a bad game. It's just not super like memorable. It's not too hard. It took me about 3 playthroughs to finally get it. Um, it's like average run of the mill. Um, there's something about it though. It's a platformer. I love platformers. It's okay. I don't know if this was released as to playing it. I don't know if this is released anywhere else. You might have to actually pick up a copy of this, but I don't think this is a high demand game or it's very uncommon. So it's probably $5-10 maybe. I don't know. Don't hold me to that. But there you can see the back of it. It's basically beach levels. You have like this little machine that you fly onto. It's an okay game, nothing great. Another game that my friend had for the Genesis was Golden Axe. This is the Sega Classics edition here. Never beat Golden Axe. I beat Golden Axe 2 a few months ago. I think I mentioned Golden Axe 2 in a game I beat maybe around winter a year ago or something like that. I don't remember when. But he had this game we used to play. The music in this game is very awesome. It kind of has an early janky beat 'em up, but I kind of like that. Um, I really, really like this game as well as Golden Axe 2. I think they still hold up and they're fun to play. There's something about it. They're simple to play, only a few buttons. You can double tap to dash. You can get on monsters or dragons and ride them. Um, you play as like Axe Battler. He's the guy in the front here. He's like your medium guy. He's like Mario and Mario 2. He does like everything average, average magic, average attack. Gilius Thunderhead is the dwarf you can see in the corner there. How awesome is that artwork? He's like the best. Is that the dwarf in the corner? Yeah, he's in the corner there. But he has the best attack, not that great of magic. And then, what's her name? I want to say Blaze Fielding, but that's Streets of Rage. I forget her name, but she has the best magic, I think, and she's not as good of attacking. So this game has a lot of charm, like how you get your health back is you beat up these little dwarves that are carrying around sacks of like health items, and to get your magic back, you beat them up in a campfire as well to get your magic back. It's a charming game, and the battle theme for Axe Battler in this game is one of the best 16-bit. It was either this one or Golden Axe 2. It's like one of the best 16-bit songs like you could hear. I could be missing. I think it's this one that against Death Adder. Against when you fight Death Adder, it's a really great song. It's like really really good music, fun playthrough, hard but short, so you can play it and get better at it and improve. Multiple difficulties too. You can set your health however you want to make it even harder. This is available everywhere. Lots of classics going back to the 360 era. There's one on the Sonic Genesis. I think it's on Switch, even Steam it's on. So if you want to play it, it's a good time. Next up, we have an NES game, Flintstones: The Rescue of Dino and Hoppy. You play as Fred Flintstone, and you have to basically rescue Dino and Hoppy are stolen by aliens. So you go through the levels. It's a platformer. You have a club. You can power up the club by holding your B button and swing it to hit harder. You have some gazoo powers, like you can turn into like a bird. You can like I think fly with the bird, and then there's some other powers that you can use sparingly. You can use those with coins that you collect from enemies, and they tick down as you're using them so many seconds. The main gimmick of this game is you're climbing, so you jump and okay, I can't make this ledge, but if you jump, you can grab it and pull yourself up. So that's the main gimmick. It's kind of weird, the detection. It's a perfectly average platformer. It's made by Taito though. I don't know if they developed it or published it, but it's fun. It's decent. I don't think you can play this anywhere else other than the cartridge or emulation. So it's okay. If you've played a lot of NES stuff and you're looking for another NES platformer, you could do a lot worse than this. I don't know if that's a glowing endorsement, but it's an okay game. Next up, we have this one is part of a 3-game Mac Venture series that were Macintosh Apple computers that were ported over to the NES. I think it was Shadowgate, Deja Vu, and The Uninvited, and this is, I gave the name away, Deja Vu. So I beat Shadowgate as a kid. I beat Uninvited maybe in 2019. Uninvited was one of the first things I ever streamed ever on YouTube. And this is the third one, Deja Vu. So you play as a detective. You wake up in a bathroom. You're kind of like groggy, and you have to find out what happened. You have stuff in your notes, so you go through your jacket and you find like a number and a key, phone number and a key, and you have to put those clues together, like an address you find, and you're basically going through scene by scene, picking with the cursor. Plays very well like all the Mac Venture adventure games because I never played the originals, but this one plays pretty good. Um, you have like you can take little verbs or whatever or maybe that's a verb, but you can pick what you want to do, like move or take or use, and you go through and you figure out with the clues you have. um, Felt really smart when I beat this game, as all these games where I figured out what to do. um, you have to like the part to finish the game for the good ending. There's like a good ending and bad ending. I finished it and I was pretty happy I figured that out with that help. um, because I think Uninvited I did need a help for something I looked up, but this one I was able to get through on my own, so that's cool. Um, Mac Venture games on NES still good to play. I think they remade Shadowgate on Steam maybe a few years ago, or PC remake. It might be on Switch too, or the other consoles, but I haven't played that. I don't think they remade Uninvited and Deja Vu, so you can either play the PC version or the NES version on ROMs, or you can get the NES carts. I don't think the NES cart Mac Venture games go for a lot. This being the second, I think they're like maybe $10 maybe, but they're if you want something different and you're tired of playing platformers or shooters or something, you want to play something different. These are pretty good. They will test your mental capabilities, so that's a good thing. Maybe play these when you're older and you need to keep your mind fresh. So you want to play, hey, go on with your tingle the old brainstem with the old, you know, uh, puzzles and stuff. It's a good thing. This is for good people in the retirement homes. If you want to play these games, they can all get together and around the TV and, oh, let's do that. Let's try that with that. I could see this being like, when you're older and in a retirement home. My generation would probably play these, or sit around a little TV and play these. Amagon. I talked about my friend Genesis games. This is one my cousin had. This is Amagon on the NES. I was always intrigued by this game. Very hard, but I sat down and beat it, and it's still very hard up until I'm going to say past the forest level. It gets very manageable. But those first 3 or 4 levels are very hard. You can't continue the game until you get past the fourth level. So say you make it up to 3-2 and you die, you have to start back on 1-1. But if you make it to 4-1, you can continue at 4-1. But then if you die again and you don't make it to 4-1, you can't continue again. So you have to make progress past 4 to continue. I don't know why they decided to give you the continues to play those. In those first 3 levels are brutally hard. There's stuff, birds flying at you everywhere. They come out of nowhere. You have to inch your way along and shoot. You have limited ammo too, so you can't just spam. So the main thing to beat this game, I found out, get points. And how you get points is you shoot lots of things. That sounds obvious, but points will come in. Every 2,000 points will give you so many life bars on your Amagon, the big dude here. So when you get a certain icon that looks like this guy here, I think it's face or something, you can turn into Amagon by hitting select. And when you hit select, you can turn real big, and then you have a life bar. That life bar is determined by how many points you have by shooting things. So every 2,000 points, you get a little few ticks on your life bar. So you want, I think, 20,000 points, and then you get a full honkin' life bar. So you want to hold off on turning into him as long as possible, because once you turn into him, the game is 100 times easier. You can punch stuff, you take multiple hits, and you can do hit up and B, and you'll do like a ranged like arcy kind of fire thingy. So the problem is, when you're not Amagon, when you're this Marine here, you take 1 hit. So you have to balance, and this is kind of cool, you have to balance getting lots of points by being good at shooting with this weak little Marine guy, and once you get like 20,000, you have a full health bar, just get an Amagon, turn into it, and then blast through everything. the game is so hard up until like stage 4, 2, 5 past the jungle, and then it gets pretty much manageable. I don't know why they, like I said, didn't give you the option to continue, maybe rentals, but it's an okay game. I'm glad I beat it, but it's, man, is it a hard game. It's a platformer shooter. Good. The music is kind of ingrained in my head, nostalgia from my cousin who had it. American Sammy. There you go. They also did. They would do a much better game later called Vice Project Doom, which I talked about a few months ago, I think. Um, this one, it's very challenging. If you're not for the challenge and figuring it out, probably skip this one. I don't know if I would play this anytime soon. I might pop it in just to get, because I think this is a game when you get good at it, you can kind of blast through it. Like a lot of games are like that, right? Next up, I've been playing. I'm trying to find other NES games to play. Hence, Amagon's one I wanted to beat since as a kid. I finally did, so that's awesome. The feeling to get an NES game or any game that you played as a kid and you wanted to finish. It's like conquering your demons. Getting that out of the way. This is one I never played as a kid. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. If you don't know, Tom Sawyer is a book character and in America or in North America, and written by Samuel Clemens, I think, his pen name. It's about a kid during the, I don't know when, but he has adventures. This is basically, I think he has to save a girl from an Indian called Engine Joe, and you go. It's a platformer. You have one hit deaths. It's very basic. It goes through. It starts out really hard as well. You get like a slingshot, and you also get like another range slingshot, which is a little better. But sometimes, not always. You don't always want to use that other slingshot. Very basic, very early NES game. Published by SETA, SETA. I don't know who developed it. I should have looked it up. Um, I do have a video of the ending. A lot of these games I streamed. I have full streams on my YouTube channel. You can just look it up. I will link to this one. I have the last boss, and the last boss looks very derpy. Like, not derpy. I don't know if that's a, like BioPhoenix mentioned in a comment. If you haven't checked out BioPhoenix, check him out, his channel. He mentioned how the dinosaur looks very weird and derpy, and he does. The last boss is very funny. So yeah, um, if you played a lot of NES stuff and you want to play some other stuff that's not as great but still decent, this is a surprisingly okay game. Next up, this game took me a long time to finally finish, and that's Lion King on this Super Nintendo. I was on the button mappers for cartoon games, and I talked about this game. I was just playing it. I did finally beat it. Uh, you can check out the button mappers video about it. I'll post it in a link. Where I talked about it basically. But basically, it's very trial and error until you figure out what to do. Like a lot of games, they made it, like a lot of games are that way. But they made this game ridiculously hard. Until you know what to do, then you can kind of. It's not easy, but you have a better shot at getting through it. You start out pretty easily. You start out as Simba, as a cub, and you go into the part that's really starts the second level. You have to kind of swing on these tails, and it's the hitbox to grab the tails is pretty hard, or if you don't grab it, you die, you fall in the water. And you have to, like, figure out the pattern to roar at these monkeys, and it sounds like I'm making stuff up, but no, you roar at monkeys to switch the way they're going to throw you, and then you have to, kind of through trial and error, you then jump on the monkey, or you hit the hippo. It'll hit you up in the air, grab the monkey, and it'll toss you either one way or the other if you roar at it to turn it around. So you have to figure out that, and then once you're through there, you're back to some more. You have to, I think it's the, yeah, you have to do that. Then you have to do it one where you're running from, and it's almost like Crash Bandicoot running towards the screen, which I'm not fond of. And you're in like a stampede from the movie, and all these wildebeests are running at you, and you got to avoid them. It's very hard, and I never didn't know how to beat the final boss because I kept dying. I had to look it up, and you have to throw him by hitting like I think it's up and or down in one of the buttons. I didn't know, and even when I knew, I had to watch a video to see how it was done because I could not get it to work. Um, this is on a collection for Switch, PS4, like the Disney collection, I think. Um, I got enjoyment out of it just because it was wanting to come back and figure it out. It sounds good, looks good, but I unless you want to put in the time, like it is a decent game, but it's made too hard too early. Um, and I think there's some things like beating the last boss that could have been explained better, because you have to throw him by a certain button, like or hit a certain button or something, and they never really explain that. And probably the manual explains it, I think. But I didn't know you had to do that, so I kept dying on the last boss. Yeah, this is it's fine. There's a Genesis version which I heard is better, and I do have that version, but I just played this one. Um, but yeah, Genesis one, I think the hit detection is a little better. I don't know exactly what, but Lion King. Next up, I wanted to play another platformer based on a cartoon, and this is Pinocchio. This is a very late SNES game, as you can tell by the ESRB rating, kids to adult, right there on this thing. Donkey Kong Country was the first one to have the first ESRB rating. This one came out very late. I'm going to say 95 maybe. Published by Nintendo, but designed by Disney Interactive, published by Nintendo themselves. So this is a Nintendo published game. You could say a first party Nintendo game, Pinocchio. Very beautiful looking, has a great look to it. Everything's hand drawn. But the animation, you have to do a certain thing to wait for the animation to stop. Very weird. Read the instruction book before you play this one, because there's certain pages you have to get. I can't even remember now, but there's certain pages you have to get powers. You can't attack until you get this one page, and then you can attack. You get other pages that increase your life. You have to collect fairies. The first level is very weird. You have to go to school but not get taken off the path, or you don't finish the level. You have to find like all your pages, and don't get tempted by not going to school. You have to go to school, and then the fairy will let you go to the next level or something like that. The end level where you're in the whale is very tough because you have to make a fire to get out, and then once you're out, you and Geppetto have to like pedal the raft, and you have to like very quickly either duck under the arch of stone coming or jump over the rock while this whale's chasing you. And if at any time you fail, you get swallowed by the whale, and you have to go through this level again, make a fire, and get out and try it again. It took me very much a long time to do that, but this game, it plays okay. There was one part, the roller coaster section is incredibly hard in this game. Everything goes by really fast, and you have to memorize. You have to really, like I'm talking about, instantaneously jump over these points to so you're going along loop-de-loops, and there's stuff in the way. It's very hard to tell what's in your way, like until you know that. I kind of cheated. I used the slow motion. First time I ever used the slow motion on the controller, I hit slow motion on my ASCII pad to slow everything down so I could see what was coming up before I actually jumped. Because I mean, it comes by really quickly. So doing that, I was able to see, okay, something's coming up. I knew. Otherwise, I would have had to replay that level a lot to actually beat it. That level's terrible, by the way. Everything else past that is fine. First level and that level are terrible. I don't know why they chose that first. That first level is not very good. But yeah, this game's okay. Published by Nintendo, so that's Pinocchio. Next, more Disney stuff. I played Bonkers. This is a very beautiful, by Capcom there. Very beautiful game, short game, not too hard. You have a running mechanic, I believe. You can run. God, I don't remember much about this other than you can beat it pretty short. It's pretty short, pretty not too hard. Looks beautiful though. Capcom, of course, it's gonna be beautiful. It's not bad. It's just I don't remember too much about it. I'm trying to remember. I know you can run. Um, I can't. I mean, obviously, it didn't. It was okay. It wasn't anything great. I don't think this is any on any collection. Um, The cartoon I saw like when it came out when I was a kid, but I was like late teen then, so I never really watched it. But the game is decent. You play as a guy, a little. I guess you're a cop and a security guard in a Warner's lot or something. I don't know 100%. I wish I could remember more. I'm sorry, but it's okay. It's okay. I would say if you want to play one of these, I just talked about Pinocchio, Lion King, or Bonkers. I would say play Bonkers because it's not going to be stressful unless you want a real challenge. If you want a real challenge, play uh, Lion King. Next up is Pinocchio and Pinocchio too. Bonkers is pretty low stress, so if you want a nice just platformer, that's pretty good. Ah, here we go, Bon. Play The Simpsons. What's this? This treasure. I'm gonna say the Sierra Madrock. The treasure of Sierra Madrock. I was right. Oops. This is Taito. They did the NES one I just talked about 5, 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. Taito. There we go. This one's like a board game where you roll dice, and then depending on where you go, you have to uh, go to certain areas. You have mini games, and then if you catch by Wilma or Betty, they'll take you back to the beginning. But it's you just have to move with the dice rolls again. I don't like that. The game is it's pretty decently long, not too hard. There is challenge to it. I think I like the NES one better, but this one's still okay. I don't think you can get this one anywhere else. You have to emulate it. I don't think Taito put it out. I'm hoping that Taito, like Sunsoft, just came back as I'm talking, and they put out Gimmick. They're putting out a new game, a sequel to Euphoria or Hebri, I think it is Hebri, which is a great Sunsoft like Metroid style platformer, exploration platformer. So Sunsoft's putting out stuff. That's awesome. I would like to see Taito release some of their stuff. Taito had some stuff on there on NES and come back and put that stuff out. Much like Tango Project has done stuff like Pocky and Rocky and Ninja Warriors and that. And I would like to in Wild Guns. I would like to see like Taito put their stuff out. Next up, we have First Samurai. This is a game that's very strange. You're a traveling samurai who has to go through each time period and collect certain orbs. Not orbs. It's almost like Time Lord, but not as hard. And Time Lord I kind of enjoy too. This one is like the music is very strange. There's a hallelujah like soundbite in it. You have to collect like different pieces, and once you find the different pieces, you have to go find the boss, fight the boss, and then you move in time to another area. There's like hidden stuff everywhere. You want to explore each level to find food and items. You have like a sword, but if you took too much damage, you lose the sword. It flies away, and you have to punch. And then you don't die when you lose the sword. Your life then starts to tick down. And when you have the sword, you don't lose life. You lose power to use your sword. You can replace the sword by filling up a meter by killing enemies, and it'll fly back to you. Kind of cool. It's not too long. It is challenging. It has some challenge, especially the last levels are very mazy to figure out where the orbs are to find everything. It's pretty decent. Not bad. The music's kind of weird. Kemco made it. I don't know who developed it, but you never hear a lot about First Samurai, but it's okay. Next up, we have Cybernator. I think this is a series called Target Earth on Genesis, and then this one, and there's Assault Suit Lano or something, I want to say. This is what we got, Cybernator. You can see in the top there it says, it's the biggest thing ever to hit Super NES. A 5-story tall, take no prisoner Cybernator with hyperspace propulsion and 316 firing range. So this game, you play as a mech. And there's a good feel of weight to it. You can fly in the air and hover with by holding your jump button, but you shoot. And if you hold the, I think it's the A button, one of the buttons, you can lock in place, and then you move, and you can 360 degree motion. You're very deliberate. Don't play this like fast. You got to play this very slow and deliberate. There's like multiple endings depending on if you fail or not. I'll say mission failed and you'll get a worse ending. I did play through it and get the good ending. Very fun game. It sounds great, looks great. Konami developed. Good sense of scale, like I said, with the weight of the mech. There's lots of cool, like there's ones where you're flying in the air, just sides. There's a level like that where you shoot side scroller. Big bosses that you shoot. Until you get the controls down. Like the first level's pretty tame. Get the controls, get used to strafing, locking your position and shooting, because you want to lock in those, because when you're moving obviously with left or right or up and down, you're going to move your turret, so you want to lock before you move, so you lock in one position. Very cool game. Here's the back of the box. Let's get some pictures of it. This takes place in 2065 AD. The nations of Earth had once again split into two major powers. The line dividing these new arch-enemy nemesis reaches as far as the lunar frontier. So one thing I don't like about this game, the story, they kind of think their story's too good, and they want to put it in everywhere. So you'll be playing the game, enjoying it, and then these cutscenes will come up where you see the person's anime picture in the bottom, and it'll talk about the story. It's not a great story. I just want to play, and they come up and interrupt you. But other than that, fun game. Fun game. This was also re-released, I think, on the Switch in an HD like version. They released it. I forget what it's called. I'm sorry, but you can look it up recently, maybe within the past few months. Here we have Spanky's Quest. This is not, I thought it would be a platformer. It is not. Natsume there, makers of great games, not only on the Super Nintendo, but NES. As you can see, this is an early Super Nintendo game because you have the non-cutout cartridge here. So for those who don't know, this little tab here, when you push the power button in, when you push the power button in, this little thing on your Super Nintendo would come out and lock the game in. So this was to prevent you from taking the game out when the power's on. But they realized that that didn't matter, so the later SNES games, as you see here, did not have that. They just cut this out for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe less plastic. But that is why you have that little tab there. Spanky's Quest. Getting back to Spanky's Quest. This is a puzzle platformer. You play as a monkey and you shoot a ball. And depending on how long you charge the ball, different balls will come out. So first it's a baseball, then it's like you charge twice, it's a basketball. And then it's a volleyball that spins and encompasses a lot of the screen. And then it's like a huge bunch of basketballs that jump. So you have to time your attacks to beat all these enemies that were fruit. So I should talk about the story. You're a monkey named Spanky going on an adventure, and all of a sudden this castle falls down and surrounds you by a witch. And the witch is there. She comes, ha ha ha, and she turns all your food, because you were going on picnics, so she turns all your food into a backpack into enemies that are in the game. So you're fighting like fruit against you. So you have to go through the level, get keys to open the door. Once you open the door, you go to the next level, and they get progressively tougher. The music is great. Pretty fabulous music made by a famous Japanese composer. I wish I knew. I think he did the Bayou Billy music. That's what one of my friends on the stream told me. He did the Bayou Billy music. Thank you, Zardafron, for letting me know. The Bayou Billy composer did this, and yeah, it's a very decent game. Very hard at the end. It ends with a boss rush, which I don't like boss rushes. So you have to beat all the bosses, which are really cool looking. They're like giant fruits. So you have a giant pineapple with shades. You have a giant thing of grapes. Really cool bosses. Look up the bosses for Spanky's Quest. Pretty decent game. Very early Super Nintendo game, too. Okay, we're getting there. We have a few more left, or about 7 or so. Maybe 8, 9. So next up, Genesis does. We have Alicia Dragoon. You see my copy's kind of beat up. This game is pretty cool. I didn't know much about it. I put it in, got addicted to it. It plays like a shooter platformer in that you don't aim your shots. You shoot with the B or A button, and you shoot this homing lightning that comes out, and depending on how long you charge, when you just wait, it'll charge. The more stronger the lightning is. So if you just hold the button, your lightning will get weaker, and then you have to wait, and you're defenseless. So you have to kind of time when you shoot, and then because it'll hit pretty much everything. So the more it's charged, the more you hit. You have little buddies that follow you around, little dragons. You start with one, you can get up to four. One will be like a little thing that will take all the damage for you. Is this little rolling thing. Now there's like a dragon that shoots fire. Now there's like, I forget the other ones, but they all have certain strengths. You can level them up by getting items up to level 4, I want to say, as well as yourself. You get more health up to level 4 or something. It behooves you to explore the levels, especially the first ones, to get some of those upgrades to give yourself a better chance. So jump into walls, find hidden items, because it gets pretty hard. So you want to explore those early levels, because once you get into around the 3rd, 4th level, the gloves come off and the music changes. It's serious. Once you get to like the airship music, stuff's everywhere, jumping at you, all this stuff. Very fun game. The music's superb. Very, very good music. I forget who made this. This was is it Game Arts who did this? I think Game Arts did this. Who did later would do what's that famous RPG they did? Grandia. I think they did Grandia. I could be mistaken. I don't know. But very good game. Very fun game. This is on a Genesis collection too, so you don't have to get the cartridge. This must have been owned by JB. Is that who put his initial there? Very fun game. Stick with it. Explore the early levels. Learn the game. Enjoy the music. I think you will enjoy this one quite a bit once you learn how it plays. The last level is pretty... 2 levels are pretty difficult. But nothing you can't beat. I have faith. If you put in the time, you can beat it. Because if I could beat that, anybody can beat it. Just put in the time. If you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, then don't play it. But if you do enjoy it, I think it's worth your time. Next up for the Genesis, we have eSWAT. Actually, eSWAT City Under Siege. So this is a game that doesn't put its best foot forward. You start out as a little cop. You're playing as like a beat cop on like the streets. And you have like a little gun. You can shoot up, down. And you go on the rooftops, you shoot, and you play through it. You're like, okay, that's good. That's good. The second stage, you're in a prison. You're exploring this little prison with these platforms. You can fly up to the different levels of the prison, go behind, shoot the guys. Okay, that's fine. It's fine. When you get to the 3rd level, you get your eSWAT suit. So you almost have to like level up. Like you earn your ranks. Like the cop's like, no, you can't get the eSWAT suit until you do these 2 missions. Then you get your eSWAT suit. You're in the air. You have weapons. You have like all kinds of different weapons you can get. And then the game really picks up. Up until that point, it's pretty average. It gets pretty hard because it's not a long game like a lot of these games. But once you learn it, you can get through it. I believe you can. Excuse me. Trying to remember the last level, because I don't remember the last levels. Yeah, you fight like a mirror, like, in Rocket Knight you fight Axel Gear, you fight like an evil version of yourself in the suit. And that stage is pretty hard. You almost have to survive, because at one point he will do this super spinning attack that you have, and it will take off like 5 bars of health, so you have to have at least 6 or so when you get to that point, and then he dies, and then it goes to this cool ending where he tries to kill you, and you see it's all controlled by a computer. You'll dodge him and shoot him and stuff. Pretty decent game. Early Genesis game. Was an arcade game. I haven't played that, but this one's pretty cool. eSWAT City Under Siege. Next up, we have Rocket Knight Adventures for the Sega Genesis. This is a game my friend didn't have. I haven't played I think I played it on Game Genie maybe back in 2019, and I beat it with the Game Genie. So I did remember some of it. This time I played it without the Game Genie and beat it. Very happy with myself, because this game is awesome. The graphics are amazing, first rate. The soundtrack's amazing. The character's amazing. Everything about this game's amazing. It is hard, and the North American version is very hard, because they tweaked it. I think children which is the default, is the default's easy. So the default easy is the Japanese hard, and the default, and children, which is the next step down in the American version, is default normal in Japan. So you have like, you're starting out with the hard mode basically. So normal on this game, which I did beat it on easy first, which is hard, and then I beat it on normal, which is like crazy hard for the Japanese. It's insane. You have limited continues, but there's another one that's like one hits after that and you're dead. This game is very hard, very very good. There's all kinds of, like, you start off with a platformer and you're this cool possum, and you use your sword and you have a jetpack. You can charge up with by holding the B button, and you'll shoot up in the air, shoot in angles, bounce off walls, and there's these pig enemies that are cool. Everything about this game is cool. Different kinds of gameplay. The first level's like a side scroller. You fight like these bosses. And then there's a stage with like you're in this cool area where you're flying as in your jetpack. You have a jetpack too, and then you're shooting stuff with your sword. And then you go into one where you're behind this waterfall back and front. You're one where you have to like explore this ship, and the fire's coming at you. And then you're on one with like a fire level, and you're riding this thing, and this thing like big walker. It sounds pretty cool. It sounds like I'm going crazy, but it's pretty awesome. And then the last two levels, you fight Axel Gear. He's like you, but he's like a bad guy, bad possum. And he has like all your moves. You're in this big tank and you're fighting him like a boxing match. And then you like in space, you're fighting him. You're hanging by these things, and space is behind you. You have to rocket into them. And then you go up into this big pig star in the sky, and you have to fight this giant like pig emperor, and he's the toughest boss for me. And then you got to fight this sentient satellite pig thing, and like once you beat him, he like shows you going out of the ship, and then he comes out too. There's a little thing that comes out. You see two sparks that come out of the ship when it explodes, and this guy pig thing follows you, the AI of the computer, and you have to like survive the fall, and then he burns up, and it's a pretty amazing game. Plays well. The stages are all about memorization, so until you know what to do, you will die and have to replay it. But start on easy. I think on easy you can get through it, because that's normal. Or start on children. I think I went children, easy, normal. And then as you do that, you will learn the levels, and then you will beat it. I have faith in you. Great game. Pretty awesome. It comes with a cool poster too. Here we go. Look at this poster. Look at this. I had to hang this up. We're coming at you head on. So, if you didn't know, Konami on the Genesis, they were not a big thing until later. They started porting, I think they started with Turtles, Sunset Riders, and then here's Tiny Toon Adventures Buster's Hidden Treasure with Montana Max down here. And on the back, you have the games talking about, okay, we have Hyperstone Heist, Tiny Toon Adventures, Buster's Hidden Treasure, and Sunset Riders. There you go. Pretty awesome. So, yeah, they had Rocket Knight. Konami on the Genesis had some good games. And Rocket Knight, I think, is up there as one of their best games they ever probably made on the 16-bit generation. Made by the guy, directed by the guy who did the Contra series from Contra 3 on. He did Contra 3, he did Hardcore on Genesis, he did Shattered Soldier on PS2, which I haven't played much, and he did Neo Contra as well. Great game. Rocket Knight Adventure. Can't recommend it enough. Next up, we have Rolling Thunder 3. Rolling Thunder is an arcade series. 1, 2, I think 2 was ported to the Genesis. 1 was on the NES too. Rolling Thunder 3 is a completely made for Genesis game. So if you don't know Rolling Thunder, you play as a spy. You're very lanky, and you can jump up to like levels above you and stuff, and go in doors and get ammo in the doors, find items in the doors. It's not one-hit deaths like the other Rolling Thunder, so you have a life bar. You have to pick one weapon at the beginning of the stage, and then depending on the weapon, you can't use it again in the next stage. Very fun. The last level is pretty hard because this game is very deliberate, because it's based on an arcade game. More forgiving because it's developed for the home market, Genesis. where you have to learn what's coming at you, the best way to take them out. Especially the last level, there's stuff coming at you, and you don't know if they're going to throw a grenade or not. And when the grenade throws, it's kind of hard. You can't dodge it until it's too late. It's too late. If you think you want to dodge it, it's too late. This game's okay. I liked it. I didn't love it. I do like, if you want to play a game like this, there's also, what's the one on Codename Viper on the NES. I beat this maybe around Codename Viper around 2018, 19 on easy, I think. And I'd like to go back to that one after playing this one too, because I remember really liking Codename Viper. I think this one's easier than Codename Viper. Really good graphics too. You can see exactly what's on the screen here. It's basically, you can jump up to a level, and you got to avoid stuff by jumping up, jump down, go indoors to avoid, go to the end of the level, fight maybe a boss. I think there's like, how many missions are there? 12 missions plus 12 megs, sorry. 12 action-packed, 12 packed megs they have. 12 packed megs. 10 levels of awesome action. There's actually hidden levels too, which I haven't found. Pretty decent game. Genesis only. So there's one to keep an eye out. If you do like Rolling Thunder, you probably know about it. Next up, we have Splatterhouse 3. This is the only Splatter... Well, take that back. I beat Splatterhouse 2010 on the Xbox maybe a few years ago, and I liked that. I was able to unlock Splatterhouse 3, but I played through it on the Genesis here, and I quite enjoyed this game. Very hard. It's unlike the other Splatterhouses, where in the other Splatterhouses you're on a side view and you can't move up and down. This one you can, so it's more like a straight brawler, like Final Fight, Streets of Rage, where you can move up and down. And you have a limited move, but the one move you want to master is by hitting, I think it's back forward or something. You do a spinny kick, which is very powerful. You want to master that, because during the later levels, you really have to get that down. And it's not 100% easy to use, so until you learn that, it's kind of hard. But your times, so you want to get and rescue your girlfriend at the quickest time possible on the first level. If you do that, you're on path for the good ending. You're in a mansion, you go to the next level, and you have to rescue your son who's kidnapped. If you don't do that, you get a bad ending. But if you rescue him, you get a good ending. So there's a total of 4 endings, I think. 1 if you rescue the girl, 1 if you rescue the boy, 1 if you rescue both, and 1 if she dies, 1 if he dies. So there's more than 4, 5, 6 endings. The last level of the mansion is brutally hard. It took me a long time to beat this, and I got the bad ending. But it encourages playthroughs, so if you can get good at it, you can get the good endings. You can go through and do the good endings. I only did the bad ending, but fun game. We have 5 more. Decap Attack on the Genesis, early Genesis game. There you see. And this was basically a platformer where you this mummy chucked the head, and you have like this thing when you attack. This thing comes out of your chest and shoots like another head, and you can get another head by beating these little statues that upgrade you. So you have a projectile that throws and it lands on the ground and does damage while it's landed, comes back. But if you get hit, you lose that. You do have a life bar. You can take a few hits depending on your health at the top there. See little hearts right there. You can upgrade in the levels to get more. I think you can have up to 4. You can start the game and decide if you only want 2 hearts or up to 4. I started with 4. You have a start screen, which has your powers. As you're going through the levels, you get different powers, potions that do things. 1 increases your attack, 1 does your jumping, 1 makes you invincible, 1 freezes the enemies on the screen, and so forth. You have to use those, and then there's like bonus games where you have to you can win extra lives, which you want to do by getting coins, and you want to put like the number of coins or tries you get depends your chance on getting extra lives. And the bonus game is like walking on this path and getting to the end, and what's at the end is like what you get. So you want to do good, explore the levels to get the chances at the bonus, to get more lives to beat the game. So it makes you get better at the game to explore and get your chances to get your 1-ups. Pretty fun, challenging, not too hard. It is kind of difficult, but nothing I think you can't get past if you put some time into it. And it's based off of a Japanese game, Magical something, I forget, but the Japanese version is harder. For some reason, I didn't think it was like we could understand. I think it was maybe an anime or something. So they changed it to this kind of style, and they changed the whole theme to like a Halloweeny, cartoony, almost like reminds me of Beetlejuice here theme. I kind of like this. The music's very weird, but it's very good. It's a decent game. Decap Attack. I think it's on Genesis collections that you can get on the newer consoles too. Next up, we have Gunstar Heroes, and I finally beat Gunstar Heroes. I think I made it to the Space Shooters part one time, and it was late, and I quit. This time I beat it. I played the guy who can shoot freely while he runs. There's also a guy who can shoot. He has to be stationary when he runs. This game is cool, very cool, really good. Music's great. Graphics I'm not a huge fan of. It does have to do some good effects with like the stuff twirling, especially the second or third level boss. There's this multi-form boss that will take all these forces. I think these 7 forces is his name. There's like 7 parts of them. Depending on your difficulty, I think you get more forms to fight or something. I'm not sure if that's true. I want to say maybe that's what it is. But you pick the guy at the beginning, freeform shooting guy or free other guy, and they're like by different colors. And then you pick your weapons you want. Okay, so there's 3 different weapons or 4 different weapons, and then you get those other weapons, and they combine them to do different things. Like one will be a multi-homing shot, one will be like a flamethrower, one will be like other. And depending on how you play, you can customize the weapons you want. So if you want to get the homing shot and not have to worry about aiming, you can do that. If you want to do super powerful but close range, you could do the flamethrower. You can do like a laser lightsaber thing. You can do all kinds of things. And I played through it once, and I just used a certain like flame and the homing thing weapon. Really had a blast with it. Challenging but fair. Unlimited continues. Makes it playable. Very, very playable. This is available on multiple Genesis collections. 3DS has a 3D Gunstar Heroes, I want to say they put out. Maybe? Or I could be mistaken. Very fun shooter. It's a side-scrolling shooter, basically. Great music, great graphics, great gameplay made by Treasure. Very, very good game. Very approachable, but because it's unlimited continues, too. So, Gunstar Heroes. Very fun. Next up, we have Game Gear. Yeah, Game Gear, huh? We have Ninja Gaiden on the Game Gear. This is a completely different Ninja Gaiden. It's very short, but difficult near the last few levels. But once I did beat it, I beat it in like 20 minutes or so. Very short game. You have a pretty good reach on your sword. You have different ninja weapons. It's a side-scroller action game. You play as Ryu. The story is nonsensical, but that's okay. Decent music. It's decent. Decent game. I can't say much more about that. Don't worry, like, it's a fun game. Game Gear. And we have Land of Illusions starring Mickey Mouse. This is like a Mickey Mouse Metroid-style adventure game. So you find certain upgrades in the stage, and you can go back to the stage and get different areas, access different areas, do something, get something else. Like Goofy opens a path for you. He says, "Gosh, Mickey, go and get this," and you go back, you get this, then you can go to the other levels and go on and go on. You go up to the Sky Castle. You plant like a seed in the freaking the what am I talking? The island, and it grows up like a vine, and you can climb up. Pretty fun, decent game. This was also on Master System as well. And you can play Master System games on the Game Gear, but you can't play Game Gear games on the Master System. So there's like an adapter for Game Gear where you can play Master System games. But I really wish I could play this on the TV though, because my Game Gear is an original model with the screen. I had to replace the capacitors, and even then the screen is so hard to see. I really wish I could play on a better screen, especially with my eyesight getting worse and stuff. So that's it. What a lot of games. Good eclectic range of games there. I want to thank you guys for watching. It's been a long video, but I'll post the links to a few of the playthroughs of bosses and stuff for a boss or so. Probably on Adventures of Tom Sawyer, so you can see how funny he looks. And a link to the button mappers where I talked about Lion King in depth. I did like a review when they asked me for cartoon games. So I want to thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.